Number 1. Rejection. Rejection is most times seen as a negative phenomenon or occurrence. It is accompanied by pains and bitterness. People or persons that have experienced rejection at some point or the other are often pained at the time of rejection. But when that time or period passes and they look back to that time, most often than not, they are full of gratitude for that rejection that happened. Rejection at that point of a seeming breakthrough can leave one devastated and frustrated, thereby dashing all hopes. Rejection has made some people to quit an assignment, a project, and maybe an initiative. The way and manner by which rejection is handled varies per individual. While some have mastered the act of accepting it positively and moving ahead, others have not, and therefore they only see the negative aspect of it. For some, due to the rejection that they have experienced in the past, they vow to be more determined and focused, and that has pushed them to be sought after. God can use rejection as a tool to bringing His will or counsel to pass in your life. When you are in a relationship that everything looks just fine and the future seems bright, and suddenly your partner no longer sees you appealing anymore or no longer feels love for you anymore, thereby leading to rejection, at first you feel heartbroken and disappointed. It will look as if the world is coming to an end, and in fact, it will take only God to help you recover, especially if you are deeply in love. When such type of rejection happens and you allow God to heal you of your pains, He alone will give you a new beginning and open a new chapter for your life. When He takes you back to the rejection story and all, you may discover that you had fallen in love with the wrong person, and if He had allowed you to end up with that person, it would have been disastrous. So, in such case, God uses rejection from one person to position you for the right person in marriage. You might not see or know at that moment, but in the long run, when you see it, you will appreciate Him for that rejection. You may have suffered rejection from parents and family while growing up. Maybe your father was never there for you, or your mom was never affectionate towards you. You have probably watched or seen other families or homes where there is happiness and peace unlike yours. And since then, you made up your mind that your children will not face what you faced. Instead, you vow to be there for them in all aspects where they will need you. That rejection that you suffered as a child or teen is one way that God has used to prepare you for marriage and family life without your knowing. Number 2. Obedience and submission. You are familiar with the commonly used phrase, obedience is better than sacrifice. Yes, it is better indeed when you do exactly what you are told to do. It pays off than having to pay for the consequences of not doing it. Obedience, either to God, your parents, spiritual authority, and the government, all comes with reward or benefits. God especially, when He gives you an instruction which most times does not make sense to the natural mind, expects you to obey to the latter. This is most times not to His advantage, but to yours. God gives instructions either through an audible voice, His written word, through the mouths of other people in terms of your parents, spiritual leaders, or friends, and what He requires from you is your obedience. When you come to God, one of the first things He will correct about you is that stronghold of whatever shortcoming in your life. He begins to give you instructions for you to do, instructions that have nothing to do with marriage, but He uses it to prepare you for marriage because He has seen your end from your beginning. He knows if you get married with that attitude, your home will not know peace. Obedience and submission goes hand in hand. When there is obedience, submission follows. For a lady, the Bible has stated clearly that wives should submit to her husband. If your belief does not permit you to be submissive, then you are not prepared for your marriage yet. God may place you in a position where you have to submit to a superior authority just to prepare you for marriage, because submission is part of what is expected of a virtuous woman and a godly wife. Number 3. He allows you to be alone for some time. Many a times we want to be surrounded by people. We want to find love immediately, get married, and settle down. However, if God allowed this, some things could go wrong in the future. It is important to build a relationship with oneself and have an identity before becoming attached to someone else. It may look as though people have abandoned you, but that is God's way of helping you become stable by yourself and preparing you to be a better person when you get married. Interpersonal relationship is a kind of relationship that you have with yourself. It has to do with you accepting and appreciating who you are. You cannot give what you do not have. You cannot give love to another person when you do not love yourself. You cannot give peace when you do not have peace within you. You have to learn to have a healthy relationship with yourself before you can have the same with others, because your relationship with others is a reflection of your relationship with yourself. When all that is inside of you is self-pity, inferiority complex, lack of forgiveness, bitterness, malice, and so on, then your relationship with anyone that comes across you suffers as well. Since marriage is the coming together of two people and not just one person, such marriage will not bring glory to God because of the unhealthy mindset and relationship of one partner. It takes two people to make a marriage work. These two people must agree and start a family. Godly children or seeds cannot be raised from such union where the individuals have faulty foundations, and the end of it can be seen in our society today. An increase in social problems because a frustrated father cannot raise a happy child and a depressed mother cannot be there for the child or children. God uses your interpersonal relationship to prepare you for marriage by changing your mindset through His Word about who you are. You begin to see yourself the way God sees you and not the way your parents, family, or the society has seen or is seeing you. You do away with identity crisis because you now know who you really are. This can now reflect in your interaction with your family, friends, and anyone that come your way. Number 4. Connecting you with people. Interpersonal relationship is the opposite of intrapersonal relationship. It is your relationship with other people. When the foundation of your relationship with other people is wrong, then every other thing built on that foundation will sooner collapse. To think that someone that can afford what you can afford is not worthy to be your friend is wrong. God uses your relationships with other people to prepare you for marriage. He will correct your impression about people. You will learn to tolerate and accommodate people with their excesses. God can bring someone into your life that has many weaknesses and requires that you accept them for who they are. It may sometimes be frustrating, especially when the person does not appreciate your role and efforts in his or her life, but when all is set and ready, you will discover that you have been prepared and furnished for marriage. Number 5. Selflessness and sacrifices. A selfless life is a sacrificial life, a life that values and makes other people's needs a priority. When you have been living a life of self-centeredness and believe that whatever you have belongs to you alone, God steps in to help you change that philosophy and prepares you for marriage. Marriage takes self-denial and sacrifices, and one of the best things that can happen to a man is for him to learn and have these qualities before marriage. That marriage will be successful. Sometimes God gives you an instruction to sacrifice one thing or the other. God can tell you to sacrifice your income for a family or give out something that is precious to you. This is only to sow a seed into your family too. You may not realize it at the time, but those little sacrifices are God's way of preparing you ahead for marriage. It not only serves as a form of preparation, it also serves as a seed to secure a happy family and marriage for you.